Pat, just to kick us off, what were your sort of defining moments in this particular, the London 2012?
Well, I mean, I think the opening ceremony was has been thought provoking for many people for the last few weeks, and I think what was thought provoking about it, from my perspective, which is may or may not be news to people, but I'm kind of an independence supporter, left of centre independence supporter in Scotland, but also I spent half my time in London. So, because my partner's in London and half of my business is in London, so I was looking at the opening ceremony and thinking, what a triumph for actually creative London. When I think about the amount of people who are involved in kind of Imagineering, as to use the Disney term, in London life, I could sort of see a lot of that pouring into the event. And I could see, a whole, actually, people, the fact that Danny Boyle was pushing it forward. Danny Boyle is a kind of product of the kind of Channel 4 era of supported and subsidised British filmmaking. So there was a lot of triumph, but I agreed with most of the general commentary that it was an ideological statement, but it was really fascinating because it sort of felt like the kind of the hegemonic Cameronista spirit coming back. The whole idea that you could hug a hoodie and you could triangulate between the left and the right and you could do a new Blair as Cameron. It felt as if there was it felt like me as if there was an old Cameron, an old new Tory ambition sort of coming through here that we can occupy some putative centre ground. So I think that was absolutely fascinating as a kind of cultural ideological event. I mean, totally thought-provoking.
The thing that struck me about it was the comment that Gary Lineker made just afterwards, which was it was something brilliant but British and bonkers. I mean, who would have thought you could make a kind of a tableau out of the NHS?
Yeah, and the peace sign in the middle and all the rest of it. Yeah, that's right. That's right, and
which kind of feeds back to your point about being this kind of a sort of a Cameronista. Let's keep the NHS sort of.
Kind of. That was one side of it, and then the other side of it was, I mean, the fact that Jerusalem was the theme of the event. I was just driven all the way back to that Royal Court performance of Jerusalem. Yeah, the Jess Butterworth play with Mark Rylance and Mackenzie Cock. I think Crook is the stars of it. Which, if you actually saw that a year ago, was like this kind of expression of sort of anarchist Englishness, And so I think the ceremony was as powerful for.
Before you go on there, I mean, that strikes me as interesting, because in the sense that if you take all the power of the music away from Jerusalem, it was. I mean, Blake was kind of slightly bonkers. He was quite anarchic, and if you look at the lyrics of that poem as it started out in life, it's quite radical stuff. I mean, it's not boxing with gloves on.
Oh no, it's true, and so that there was something about a New England much more than a New Britain for me from that ceremony. Do you know what I'm saying? And precisely because it was coming off Blake and bonkers engineers like Tim Berners-Lee, and then all the way back to Brunel. There was a real argument being made there, and I felt as if it was much more an argument, at least for me, about what a post-imperial in England could be like. Shorn. I mean, not just. I mean, explicitly shorn of the missiles, with the big peace sign appearing in the middle of the performance. Explicitly shorn of the. There was no mention of empire, no mention of colonialism in the whole ceremony. So there was a statement being made here about what it could be like to be an England in the world, not having big power pretensions, majoring on their creativity.
Well,
so that was my thesis about the whole.
Where does that leave people like you and me? I should the Scots, in a sense, because in a sense that's a huge appropriation of the the Industrial Revolution to the English. I did feel some emotion, and it was weird because I felt some emotion at the very beginning, where they did the rounds of the choirs in the various different countries, and I thought it was. I mean, the sight of the Giant's Causeway. The fact that they were singing Danny Boy, which has been an anthem for, Northern Irish boxers. We had Rinty Monaghan back in the 50s and 60s who used to sing that after every fight. You've got Flower of Scotland, which is not exactly, it's It
You
can,
know?
and the bread of heaven from the Welsh thing, which in
Yeah.
a funny sort of way, I felt almost more emotion out of that than
Yeah.
any of the others. Very powerful, but short vignettes, and then we were slightly got out of the road, and as you say, the big story of England then kind of kicked in.
Well, a big story of England with shots of the rest of the island. I mean, I think when they did the celebration of British film and television, they had quite a substantial slip from Gregory's Girl, for example. And Gregory's Girls, I mean, obviously Danny Boyle is going to choose that because he's a great sort of indie film auteur, you know. But Gregory's Girl is a really interesting film because it's about intensely Scottish, but it's also set in this new town. You know, this town that was built out of nothing. You know, East Kilbride or Cumbernauld, I think it was. So again, it was this. They were choosing very, very intelligently a mosaic of, as I say, I think it felt like a Britain liberated from old Britishness, but a new Britishness that would be like a Scandinavia 10 years ahead or something. You know, it's like, what would it be like to be British, have a common feel on these islands, rather than being Great Britain, the state? I thought it was self-conscious. I think people like Frank Cottrell Boyce and Danny Boyle are self-conscious about what they have to reject from the old Britain, what they want to get. So I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a brilliant exercise, you know.